Welcome everyone to your Aries season reading. I hesitated to record this over the last few days since the actual spring equinox. Happy astrological new year, by the way, to all of you. Mostly because I couldn't actually feel the Aries energy because we have been still very much anchored in Piscean energy, Piscean deep subconscious dives with Mercury and Jupiter ruling that force. And while that hasn't actually shifted yet, I do feel less of a sense of heaviness from that, which may also have something to do with the fact that we are moving through the Mars and Uranus square energies, which you probably have felt over the last day or two. I think that they really culminated yesterday, which would have been Monday the 22nd, because I felt not only in myself a deep sense of irritability and discomfort, but also I experienced it through other people, and they in turn also confirmed that they were feeling it themselves. So when we have a strong pull like that, I generally feel that it's best to step back, contemplate, sit in observation, and just experience the energy, because eventually that informs us. It informs our path subconsciously, and then that eventually manifests. And when I decided to record this last night, I still had not felt that manifestation. I actually pulled a full reading, and the reading was really very much a Piscean reading. So I took it to be a sign that we still had to go through the depths of that energy. And this will continue probably until the very beginning of April. Of course, this reading is for the entire Aries season, so catch it whenever you can or want to. It will be relevant to the moment that you listen to it, and hopefully you'll find yourself in what's already come to pass, because I do feel that we're graduating from Piscean complexities. That's all I can say. I have a Pisces moon, so generally my emotions are very triggered and tested by the Pisces season. I think I've discussed that in prior videos, but it always seems to come in some completely unexpected manner. And of course, with the massive changes that I underwent during Pisces season, in terms of leaving my professional environment behind and trying to figure out how to secure the next steps of my life, I came head to head with Pisces, in the sense that the universe basically said, hell no, you're not moving forward into anything tangible while you are still grappling with this constant sense of dread and anxiety and angst that sits within you, even though you have left something behind that you thought was the source of those issues. And of course, it was the catalyst, the environment, the people, so on and so forth. Always. That's how it works. So as above, so below. we manifest in our environment circumstances that are going to push us forward on our trajectory, right? So I accept that. I hope that you're also graduating to a point in your life where whatever happens in your life you see as being divinely purposeful to reaching your higher purpose and embracing your higher self. But there is no end point to that process. So we have to learn to embrace it. We have to figure out how to appreciate the challenges that are put in front of us and not find ourselves, as we will see from our reading, in that place where we have a tendency to go for the questions like, why me? Why is this so complicated? Why can things not go better for me? It seems like everybody else is like in la la land, up in the clouds. And there is a lot of that because you're around a lot of people who aren't very awake and who are in their own version of survival mode, but they just haven't even woken up to that reality because they're not challenging any of the meaning of any of the experiences that they're having. They have set goals in motion that are generally societal impositions that they don't see as impositions because they're doing things right according to these standards and practices that have been imposed upon them probably since childhood. So to them, they're winning. Again, I don't wish to focus on criticizing these people, but when you go through a Piscean transformation, as we said in my last video for the full moon in Virgo, this is an assimilation energy, like Piscean energy. It's about finding the sum total of the commonality and the sum total of the parts of all of the previous signs of the zodiac and their moments in the sun. And it might not be as straightforward as finding a common thread that's so easy to isolate and process intellectually and consciously, but there's a wave of information that has caused you to change in some way and to reach a certain maturity that will then in turn feed this next cycle. So we have some pretty intense astrology still on the horizon for this next period of time. Most important, and you probably have heard this if you are paying attention to astrology, if not, let me be the first to introduce you to this. In April we have Jupiter and Neptune forming a beautiful alignment that really brings about the opportunity, because of the way that it's aspected and because it's specifically in a part of the sky that makes it very unique and that we haven't actually seen in our lifetimes. I won't go into the details of that because really I'm not a schooled astrologer, and so therefore for me to speak on the specific nature of why it's so different, other than the fact that it's in a specific sign and it takes a certain number of years for Jupiter to go through the entire zodiac wheel. that's all you need to know from me. If you want more information, there's tons of astrologers out there who can enlighten you from a more technical perspective. But a lot of people are putting forth the idea that this is about bringing to realization the intensity of a dream, a lifelong dream that is in alignment with our purpose. And while it could be very nicely aspected in your chart so that that's the way that it manifests for you on a personal level and in the collective, there's also, it is Pisces that is having a primary influence in this energy, and therefore Neptune being ruled by Pisces or vice versa, and Jupiter formerly ruled Pisces. Sorry, I had a complete moment of a meltdown trying to figure out exactly where I'm going with this information, but essentially what I'm trying to say is, because we've already gone through this journey of the deep dive into the subconscious, the requirement to assimilate the journey of the last year through our subconscious mind into our emotional consciousness, there's a strong pull towards the continuation of taking that energy of our deeper emotional sphere and thrusting it into Aries energy, which is of course about individuation, how we perceive ourselves, how we treat ourselves, and how we after that, once we move into, that's the first decan, and then beyond that, then it's about how we allow other people to treat us and how we feel treated by the outside world and how we're seen in the outside world. And then of course we fuse those into a tangible shift in identity, generally in an Aries season. So how does that tie in with a deep Piscean influence that's based on, Jupiter expands, Neptune is illusion, but also dreams. So it could also pivotally imply a reality check of sorts, which is what all this subconscious energy has been about as far as I have experienced it. It's like, where are all those illusions within you? What do they represent? How have you been shortchanging yourself by buying into illusory perceptions, perspectives, philosophies, prescribed standards, prejudice? I'm not meaning in terms of bigotry, I'm meaning prejudice as in conscious bias, subconscious biases, about your own experience of life, about your own journey, about how you see yourself, essentially. So, I know I'm talking a lot about a variety of different things, but that's because this is very Piscean. It's, this would flow much more easily for me if I was already at a graduation point with this, if I was at the point where I could embrace the Neptunian energy, but I'm still very fearful of that. I'm still very anchored in fear about the idea that if I dream too much, I'll disconnect from reality, and then something will come along and steamroll me or take me off guard, right? And I think that I'm just about to hit the nail on the head here as I'm going down this self-revelation path that I'm sharing with you right now, which is that for me, the Pisces meltdown this year was about age, how I perceive myself, the kind of illusion that I try to pull in order to give myself the excuse not to step up, not to level up, because, for me, whatever experiences I've had in my life have taught me that if I can pull off seeming younger, then I don't have to face my discomfort with the fact that I will never meet conventional standards of behavior in society, and less so the more I awaken to how important it is not to on the spiritual path. But that requires within me a breakdown of a lot of values that I hold on to, that I'm also deeply ensconced in as a result of living in a society that is very materialistic, a culture that is very image oriented, and I have subsequently allowed myself to buy into feelings of inadequacy that are reinforced by the outside world, when in fact, we really need to explore ourselves from the perspective of total Aries individuation. And that does not mean being selfish and self-driven. What it means is understanding the power of myself, yourself obviously in your case, and cultivating that for the greater good. Understanding that you don't improve yourself just for yourself. Naturally, as you improve yourself, naturally as you let go of those illusions, naturally as you move through those restrictions. Identity is a massive restriction, right? You will find yourself more and more capable of enjoying life, finding joy, finding reasons to celebrate, because they step outside of all those reduced scope of exploration, of identity, of experience. Does that make sense? I hope so. Again, these are relatively abstract explanations because I'm going intuitively with the energy. I haven't experienced it yet beyond what I've already expressed to you. But again, what I could say is that crisis of the Neptunian Piscean crisis, which I assume will be assimilated by the time we reach this Jupiter Neptune conjunction. What that crisis did to me was awaken me to the fact that here I am, stripping myself of a professional identity, finding myself in the position where I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I want, I think purely in terms of what salary I need to make in the future when I commit to another job, how I will it's almost like I'm preconditioned to expect the same thing, that I would just recreate the same nightmare, only hoping that the people will be different, the circumstances will be different, and perhaps that's a possibility, but again, I can't tell you what the outcome is because I'm at the very beginning of processing this information, but there's more of an unraveling taking place from that in terms of how I perceive these things than I had anticipated. And it actually caused a lot of depression and anxiety and angst, as I said earlier, for me, that I'm still working through. And what this Aries season reading will help us to see, for those of you who are also experiencing this in some shape or form, and if you are actively participating in the energies of our outer landscapes, then I would imagine that you are in some shape or form experiencing these pivots and this uncertainty and insecurity, essentially, at this time. And how could you not, even if you're not participating actively in the outside world, just seeing what is happening in the outside world, whether that be the economic despair that is kicking in for many people. Even if you do have enough money, I'm sure you still go to the supermarket and scratch your head as to how it's possible that everything has gone up by $1 or $2, or euros or pounds or whatever they use where you are. And that adds up, and it adds up to a pressure point, right? That's the thing. It's like what we are all in the middle of experiencing is being in a giant pressure cooker, and we know at some point that the lid is going to blow off, or the cooker itself is going to explode. And is it going to come through economics? Is it going to come through war? Is it going to come through the continuation of the pandemic, fear-mongering and tragedy? There's just so many things that could evolve in ways that we can not even imagine right now. And so the only thing that we can do is find ways to reinvest in our human experience on an individual level, Aries, to regroup, to re-emerge as a conduit of all the things that we want to see in the world around us, right? Joy, light, kindness, openness, balance. So, on that note, let's get into our reading beyond the intuitive messages and the astrology. This reading, I did actually pull a spirit animal oracle card, which I have not done in some time. For whatever reason, I feel like, the spirit animal oracle cards really work well for bigger picture readings. So that was why I was called to incorporate one into this video. And we have number 24, Electric Eel Spirit. Bring your ideas to life. It's an interesting crowning energy for this period. Seemingly out of nowhere, the jolt of electric eel spirit appears to awaken you to a big idea that you are meant to explore. Epiphanies and aha moments are gifted to you right now, so celebrate. Your life has the potential for profound transformation. Inspiration arises in you, electrifying you so that you can't wait to get started bringing your new idea to life. The revelations you experience now are meant to set you on a new path, so do not be afraid to act. Explore, examine, and do not fear the changes that may come, for Spirit wants to shower you with love, success, and abundance that you hope to experience. Now is a thrilling time of epiphanies, inspired ideas, and innovation. This is a wondrous sign for you. And I think that that is the energy that we graduate into in Aries season. I think we'll start seeing that manifest much more at the beginning of April. As I say, this last week of March is still very Piscean in nature, so as we are still in that, perhaps the protection message will give us some idea of how to thrust ourselves forward into that energy, right? Ideas need to percolate as they rarely download in detailed form. Have you too quickly dismissed an epiphany because you couldn't see where it might lead you? Have you rushed to follow the muse without taking time to contemplate the meaning of your aha moment? That's kind of all of the angst and dread and fear that I was talking about. So, perhaps your dream will take a different form than you first imagined, morphing into something else that is even better. Spirit's plans are often hard to discern, but so much more satisfying once they have taken over from your own predetermination. Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans, right? Maybe your big idea is taking more time to shape than you expected. Also true, there's a sense of inertia, there's a sense that everything outside of me is telling me that I need to pause right now, even energetically. Like the first 2 weeks after I left my previous role, I was exhausted, mentally and physically exhausted. I literally felt like I could barely even muster the strength to do anything other than just perfunctory activities. And I had to settle into that, and I had to accept it, and I had to embrace it. I'm still struggling a little bit with that, but just still I'm listening to it now, you know? Have you considered that you're meant to learn something in the process of bringing it into being? Commit to transformation and to learning any lessons this new venture will bring, and soon you will see that your aha was even more valuable than you realized when you first felt it electrify you. And sometimes when we make decisions, we spend an awful lot of time trying to justify why we made it, which can also keep us in a loop of illusion, Neptunian energy again, because we're not actually wanting to just speak the cold hard truth. For example, in my case, I'm just giving you these tangible examples because maybe it will help for you to see where you are experiencing something similar in your own life. I sort of oscillated between different motivations. First of all, it was that the person that I actually worked directly for was extremely toxic and dark, malignant, narcissistic person, and hugely manipulative, hugely twisted and dark. And that was what pushed me over the edge. However, underneath that was a deep sense that the place that I participated in work-wise was not only unethically run, but also on the verge of collapse. And I didn't want to be a part of that slow or fast-sinking ship, however it may turn out for them. And I could be completely wrong, and I wish everyone the best of luck. But I was not being honest with myself around my motivation for leaving, often because we protect ourselves when we're making those kinds of changes. And for me, I needed to rescue myself on my own terms, even if it meant that I was actually extracting myself from something that gave an illusory stability. That's something I'm still working through, so I'm sure you can understand how complex that might be, because it's about self-responsibilization, accountability, and so part of this Piscean energy, and as we move into Aries energy, is also in that process. So I hope you can relate to that in some shape or form. From the Sacred Power reading deck, we have the card of Exploration. Sorry for the glare. It's impossible not to have a glare there. There we go. I'm just holding that up for a moment because I feel like there's something in that image that you can be inspired by, that you can connect to. Explore new territory. This is very Aries. Create your own path with purpose. It's actually also bringing us into the eventual graduation point to Gemini. So, be brave. Exploring new ground and territory is essential to moving forward. Once we overcome our fear of the unknown, we often find the journey towards our new destination is rewarding and filled with personal growth. I just had a thought while I'm thinking that too. You know, another thing is, because very often when I'm doing these readings, you know, I almost feel the insecure need to keep saying, like, I hope that you relate and find something in your own world that you can see this same shift pattern in. Now, for me, I say that out of my own insecurity because I see other people in my life, particularly people that are anchored in places and things that I've left behind, who are still very much in that, and who seem, I mean, they're affected by it, but their pros and cons list aims towards them staying a part of whatever that is. And that can be very disconcerting if you are in an energy of comparison all the time, where you're looking at somebody else and seeing and trying to relate your own experience to theirs. I don't know why that came through, but maybe it's for somebody out there who needed to hear that, because it can be very difficult to be a maverick. It can be very difficult to be the first person to make a move, but very often that's the way it is. You are tapped into your spiritual energy, so the reality is there's a chance that you're also going to be the light holder, and therefore that you are going to be the first to always do anything that you need to do with courage and strength, and others will follow. You can't wait for other people to do it first or with you. I don't remember where I was up to with that. While exploration of the soul is required to move through the next phase of your life, travel is also a main feature now. Adventure awaits, so pack your bags and make some plans. Short or long trips are likely. Again, because so many people are not able to travel, because either they're anchored in an activity that prevents that, or they're economically unable to, or they have other obligations or restrictions. Think of this in terms of, again, as we are speaking about heavy Neptunian influences in the upcoming weeks, this can be spirit traveling, you know, like this can be a new discovery of how we interact with the astral plane, how our physical body interacts with the ether. Your soul is requiring new scenery. There is much to be learned through exploring nature, environment, relationships, and places. Nervous excitement will arise when you follow your dreams. While there may be some mountains you need to climb, it's all part of the journey. Viewing the scenery from different heights is rewarding because the climb is filled with achievements, milestones, and personal progress. By taking a step forward and realizing your hidden potential, you will find confidence as your reliance on others reduces. Sometimes to move towards something fabulous, we need to be brave. Explore the pathways already available to you, but make sure you create your own trail and walk your own track so you can live your authenticity with integrity. Right now, you need to search and explore. There are many things to be found and uncovered from past experiences. Your soul is asking you to wonder, for the soul knows where it is going. Let yourself roam free. You will find new scenery, people, and communities to connect to. While your confidence grows, so does your independence. Leave your emotional baggage in the past and your backpack empty so you can create new memories and fun experiences. It's like the Fool card, right? I am brave and courageous as I tread my new path with ease and security. That's your mantra. That fits perfectly. I mean, nothing could be more on point for a burgeoning Aries season as we come out of a deep subconscious dive, right? So, from a challenge perspective, I found this very interesting from our soul journey lesson cards. We got the envy card. I am the same as everybody, but with different challenges. Also hits on everything that we just talked about, right? So let's read the message from envy. You must learn to accept that the obstacles in your life have been chosen by you. To be jealous of the soul path of another is to doubt your ability to judge what is best for you. And oh, how difficult that is in a society where everybody is comparing themselves, obsessed with image, obsessed with social media identity, our reach, our influence, all of these things that are completely intangible. If you're living your life authentically, I can guarantee you're going to have a way bigger scope of influence in your life than you ever would if you were consciously trying to appeal to people or fit a narrative. That's just the nature of life. So it is human nature to covet the perceived luxuries of someone on a different journey, but to try to emulate him or her is not being true to your own guidance. You have chosen this life and these circumstances for a reason. By disregarding that and following in the footsteps of another, you are only setting yourself up for confusion and disappointment. You never truly know what is going on in another person's life and what personal challenges he or she may face, so to be envious is a fool's game. Be authentic to your inner voice, because only you know what is in your best interest. If you don't follow your own path, you will have to reincarnate in an attempt to learn your original lessons again. So again, the lesson there is authenticity, truth, honesty with yourself. It doesn't matter about anybody else. That's the thing. Let's hang that up once and for all. It's not about, we don't want to disrespect other people, but we don't have to care what they think or what they're doing. We don't need their input. We can seek it out. Sometimes, most of the time when we're seeking out advice or counsel in some shape or form, we're looking for reinforcement of what we already know, but don't have the confidence to carry alone. And the further along on the journey we get, the longer in the tooth we get, the more confidence we need in order to be in our authentic self. Because as you've probably noticed, the older you get, the more mature you become, the less patience you have for things that don't resonate with authenticity, go against the grain of what you feel intuitively is right. That is the idea that God is within, right? You don't wait to figure out at the end of your life if you're going to see the pearly gates or the gates of hell. That is what life is, constantly, in your choices. Your soul is eternal and will keep having the experiences it requires in order to elevate the frequency and vibration. And this card from the Sufi Wisdom Oracle deck is the end goal from a spiritual perspective, and it comes back into what we've discussed with exploration and eel spirits bringing your ideas to life and not falling into envy, and that is celebrate life. Make your life a celebration. And oh, how hard that is to do when you get caught up in other people's struggles and when you don't have faith in your own choices, in the things that unravel along your path. Praise to God for his bounty. Every breath we breathe in prolongs life. Let me start again because I read that terribly. Praise to God for his bounty. Every breath we breathe in prolongs life. When we exhale, it refreshes our soul. So there are two blessings in every breath we take, and we should be grateful for each blessing. So think about that. Every breath you breathe in prolongs life. Every breath you breathe out refreshes the soul. And that's kind of, it's not just kind of, it is a metaphor for experience, right? How we process that when we talk about that chariot energy, which we'll see in our reading of, we breathe into the subconscious, we process that from our experience, and then we elevate that back into our conscious mind, and therefore how we manifest that in our experience of life in an enlightened, more expansive manner. And that's just, as long as we're in this flesh body, that is what we are here to do, to continue to have more and more of those epiphanies and upgrades and expansions, yes. By the way, that was Sadi who offered that rumination. Sufis do not celebrate birthdays or wedding anniversaries. They celebrate achievements. They take every opportunity to celebrate even small achievements to encourage each other. And that is something that, to be in joy, you realize that you need to do. When you make your cup of tea or coffee in the morning, when you prepare your breakfast, and you do so with being nutritionally minded, you are grateful for these things and you celebrate them because they are integral to your growth and expansion and being able to be the best version of yourself. Same thing when you're cleansing yourself in the shower or in the bath or when you're brushing your teeth. These very basic things are the cornerstones of our state of mind, right? That's why we say cleanliness is next to godliness. It's not just in consideration of whether or not we stink and offend other people. It's about how we feel about ourselves in participating in the life experience. It is their pleasure to attend joyful events and celebrate being together. In this poem, Sadi suggests that we celebrate the gift of life itself by being grateful for every breath we take. The oracle's message is to have gratitude for all you have, whether it is positive and a blessing to you or a negative experience which challenges you. It is encouraging you to pay attention to your needs and to have plenty of fun and share pleasant experiences. There is so much to be thankful for right now, and the more you focus on your blessings, the more likely you are to find yourself on the receiving end of the generosity and benevolence of the universe. Dear one, the road to thankfulness lies in the flow through your own soul. Gratitude can transform an ordinary day into a day of thanksgiving. Contentment in life comes when you can turn routine jobs into works of joy and change ordinary opportunities into blessings. Our mantra is, I am blessed and I thank God for every day and everything that happens to me. I give thanks for the light, for my life, and for my strength, and I give thanks for the joy of living. Okay, let us get into the tarot. So our underlying energies, I pulled a evolutionary spread that pulls from the underlying energies that are carrying through from the past and the recent structural events of our lives into the emancipation and flow. So we're describing the journey from Pisces into Aries, and then the eventual flourishing into Aries energy as we move well into April. So that hopefully will correspond to your timeline. So a lot of clarification here on that process. And I took Botticelli cards for the primary energy. I took Rider-Waite's for the clarification. And just one Osho Zen oracle card for an outcome insight. So let's start with our underlying energy for Aries season. We have the Seven of Pentacles, so a deep contemplation of where we stand on our journey and where we're headed. And we have the Hanged Man, which is a voluntary suspension in that energy. So a deep sense of contemplation, of reassessment, of reintegration, a recalibration too. And an enlightenment, because the Hanged Man always leads to epiphany and enlightenment. What we got as our clarifiers on that energy are essentially the things that are standing in our way and what we're letting go of through that contemplative process. That is this Four of Cups energy, which I think is like what Pisces has been all about, like pulling us out of this fog, trying to get to a place where we can move beyond the fog of the Four of Cups, which is really an ingratitude, essentially, in the sense that we're not actually embracing everything in our lives on a daily basis. We're not looking at the small things as being catalysts for joy and enlightenment, but instead we are firmly anchored in a desire for things to be as they were once upon a time in our illusory memory association, and also not necessarily being open to new sources of inspiration. Again, this is not an admonishment, this is simply an expression of a state of mind. And again, this is a past energy that we're describing there, not what we're moving into. And the Justice card is what gives me that strong sense that we're moving beyond it, because the Justice card is the implication that we are finding the shift in the tipping of the scale to be more balanced. We're finding truth, which is what the sword is. And when we are in our truth, we're that implies that we're therefore able to embrace our authenticity, which in turn means that we have access to joy, gratitude, kindness, generosity, good-spiritedness, right? What we're coming out of in our past energy is the Lovers, which is the foundation of a choice made based upon what we love. And in this case, because it corresponds to Piscean archetypes, this is the love of self. This is making a choice to prioritize and love ourselves over the dictates of our environment. Excuse me. Preconditioning, letting go of that, moving beyond it because we know it doesn't serve us, reinforced in our clarification by the Death card, complete and utter annihilation of whatever that structural anchoring was. To move into Nine of Pentacles energy, which is about to choose the right word here for this energy. Self-sufficiency. But while this is a Pentacles card, this isn't about self-sufficiency in terms of being able to provide for ourselves, although it could be the case, and it may indeed, well, hopefully it is the case. But it's more in the sense of not needing others to reinforce our authenticity, to give us permission, right? And of course, this in turn leads to that Chariot energy. This is something that we're probably kind of going through right now as you watch this. It is the integration of the divine masculine and the divine feminine into a forward movement. In other words, I would say that this is what takes us out of that Hanged Man, Seven of Pentacles, contemplative energy, into a fearlessness, because that's what the Chariot really comes down to, a fearlessness, no longer being afraid to take chances, to move that wheel forward, you know, stepping out of the Four of Pentacles energy of feeling that we have to hold on to what we have, not change the way that things are, the status quo, for fear of them getting worse or you having less. And that's just not, doesn't work in life. It just does not work. You can try it all you want, and many people, including myself, have tried it many times and held on to these things over and over again, only to find that there was an utter, total disintegration of the illusion of whatever we thought we could project onto situations, people, relationships, whatever, that actually weren't serving our higher self, the higher good of all. So, how is this anchored in a clarification with the Ten of Swords reversed? So, the Ten of Swords reversed here in correlation with the Chariot, because the Chariot is a moving energy, is the end of the, you know, I feel like maybe we've all been in a end of times flow. And when I say end of times flow, I'm not meaning end of the world, I'm meaning end of times in terms of a specific karmic reality, a specific karmic restriction that was only a restriction because we still had to process the karma of that energetic amalgam. So the Ten of Swords in reverse is telling me that it's the end of that. We have reached the dawn on the horizon. Those swords are coming out of us, all of these structured thoughts of like being anchored in the idea of different fears, different prejudices, different expectations of outcomes, that we get to a point in life where we realize that if we want to move forward, we got to pull those out ourselves and just focus on where we are right now, and then allow for the flow to take us forward. Not knowing, it's actually if you can let go of the fear, it's one of the most exhilarating, life-affirming things to feel. And there's so many uncertainties out there in the world that anyone who's deluding themselves into thinking that they can control the narrative of their lives right now is in for a rude awakening, and probably one that will be very uncomfortable and not celebratory, because it's going to be experienced as loss. Which is exactly where we end up, because our next cards are, I didn't take clarifiers on these because 2 cards came out together. We got the 7 of Cups reversed, and we got the 5 of Cups upright. So what's this combination all about? Well, the 7 of Cups reversed is letting go of the illusions, letting go of the illusions of all these false choices, these ideas that, it's an egoic illusion. It's, if you grew up like I did on Hollywood propaganda and pop music and, posters and, airbrushing and societal dupes. But if you do this, you can have this. If you're like this, you will get here. All these different things that really actually restrict. It makes you feel as though there's tons of things that you haven't done, so therefore you have the illusion that things are untapped, and that, oh, well, maybe I'll go there, maybe I'll become this, maybe I'll have this experience. Of course, that's a winning battle if you're in your ego. I mean, an illusory winning battle, sorry, I should say. But it's a losing battle from the get-go if you're awake and you're actually understanding that all of those cups that you would reach, if you did reach them, would end in sorrow, would end in grief, would end in a sense of emptiness, a sense of purposelessness. And it's hard to even express that in this video because we all get so triggered by that. Because it's like, well, then what am I supposed to do? Not pursue a career path? Not, well, actually, yes. If you're doing something that's just perfunctory in your life, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. But you will, as I will, because we also have to make a living. So then we have to go through a temperance process. That's why we're always growing, processing. We're always going backwards and we're always going forwards at the same time. And hopefully, if we're becoming more and more enlightened and awakened, every time we go backwards, we go a tiny bit further forward, which just means that at least we're moving closer to our goals, right? I think that's a way of looking at it. In any case, that's more a personal way of looking at it, so hopefully it's not offensive to you. But the 5 of Cups is staring up at me as, a reminder that in letting go of illusions, again, Neptune, Jupiter, all this stuff, so be prepared for this. It's not all these people that are just like, oh, Jupiter and Neptune conjoining is going to be the most extraordinary opportunity to make your dreams come true. I'm not sure why I have to talk in that very weird high-pitched voice, but that's how it was coming through. That's my Neptune voice, I guess. No, there's a lot of, it's on the contrary. It's like breaking free of illusions so that you can actually find the real joy in truth and authenticity. But in doing so, there's grief. It's a grieving process to let go of illusions. Because that's what the Seven of Cups is. It's illusions. So, again, if you're conscious of it, it's not going to be painful. It's not even going to be sad. It may trigger some nostalgia. It may trigger some melancholy. It may trigger some feelings of regret, because regret is just really an indication of something still needing to be processed, you know? But, so the Five of Cups is not a tragic card. It's a card, again, of emotional contemplation, of we have to go through it in order to move forward, which is the grieving process. And there's a celebration there in letting go of the things that are not authentic to our spiritual and physical paths. So what happens from there is that we move into I'm not seeing this as an inner crisis. I'm seeing this as a massive inner shift. And it is inner, and under these circumstances, it will manifest externally, but we have the Tower. These three cards came out together, by the way. That's why I'm showing them together. The Tower, the Knight of Swords, and the Knight of Cups. So this is a lot of strong forward movement and change as a result of this Tower. Now, I say it's an inner tower because nothing of this time indicates some radical outer. These are all, the remnants of the Piscean inner process moving into the manifestation of individuation of the self, in a new reality, a new invention of ourselves for the next chapter, So whatever that breakdown is in the Tower, in embracing that it serves us for our divine purpose, is also a celebratory act. The Knight of Swords means that we come out of this breakthrough with a strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of intellectual assuredness, of mental assuredness, actually even of spiritual assuredness more than anything, now that I'm really tapping into it. Understanding the value of everything that you've experienced on this journey of enlightenment and awakening, and refusing not to carry that forth in everything that you do. Now, I know that I need to recalibrate into that energy massively, because I had that before I took this last fucking job that I had, and it got killed over the course of a year and a half, because I was around a bunch of people who claimed that they were awake, but they were dark alchemists. Again, the more light you have within, the more awakened you are to your light, the more you will encounter people who are trying to snuff it out. That's the goddamn truth. And this in turn translates to the Knight of Cups, which in this case, the Knight of Cups is it's about trust. It's about faith. I feel like I'm quoting a Sade song called "Nothing Can Come Between Us," if you want to check it out. Yes, being catapulted forth with faith, knowledge, and self-love and determination, which, because it's so powerful, puts us into a reverse Eight of Cups energy. And the reverse Eight of Cups energy it indicates something very, very specific here, which is that the Eight of Cups is always about moving away from sorrow, moving away from moving away from the emotional lessons and the emotional truths that we have anchored ourselves in along the course of our physical life experience, because our emotions are just reactions to experiences and how we experience them. So there's a liberation in it being reversed, that we are no longer anchored in our sorrows, our conditioning from being hurt, rejected, abandoned, whatever it may be, humiliated, shamed. Moving away from that and no longer needing to feel like we're running away from anything any longer. Because whatever we are, whatever we have, is exactly what we need right now, and we need to embrace that and use what is there for us. And this, in turn, was clarified by the Ace of Pentacles, which is the divine gift into the material realm from all of that synergistic assimilation, right? So it's very, very, there's a huge breakthrough energy here from Pisces into Aries. And at this point, we're talking about being very strongly in the Aries energy. So give it a week or two if you're watching this like at the very beginning. It's coming. Trust it. And our outcome from Aries season, we got 3 cards again. Interesting combination here. Which came first? 6 of... Oh, I guess not the 6 of Wands. Sorry, one moment. Ow. Sorry. My knees hurt because I've been working out every day and... Oof. I'm getting old. No, I'm not. Shh. How dare you? 6 of Wands. I'll show all 3. Then we can decide which comes first. The Sun, which is the celebration card. Celebrate life card, I mean. And the King of Swords. Okay, the King of Swords comes first. So the King of Swords, mastery of our truth, mastery of our knowledge, mastery of being the embodiment of everything that we're meant to represent. In other words, we let go of that 8 of Cups energy. We embrace that pentacle. We are no longer looking at ourselves as being conditioned by our experience, but instead being open to new evolutionary processes and practices and revelations and subsequent manifestations. So, and you can't really, I mean, the 6 of Wands is the victory card and the Sun is the celebration card. So there's something very positive, beyond positive. I don't even know what the word would be. I mean, it is the radical concept of epiphany and enlightenment that leads to a newfound ability to find joy, to enjoy life, to celebrate life, to be in exploration, to be in love with our ideas, to see value in our ideas and to explore them and use them constructively to carry us along our journey forth. And the clarification on that was the 2 of Swords, which is actually not an outcome card, but an indication of what it is that the King of Swords comes in to do. The King of Swords, in his assuredness, also always a reminder that it's Archangel Michael, so Archangel Michael is, who you invoke when you are in need of guidance towards your truth and protection in that journey, on that journey, should I say. So the 2 of Swords, this is an elimination of 2 of Swords energy through the King of Swords, which is actually what leads to victory and celebration of life. Because to move out of this egoic construct, which is pure restriction, to be in a place of thinking that we don't have the empowerment, we have a blindfold on to not see the intuitive flow from the moon, to not be an acceptance of the subconscious flow around, but instead to posit oneself in a place of inertia and a lack of evolutionary process through fear of putting down one of these swords. The King of Swords carries his sword with self-assurance, self-confidence, and a sense of purpose. This is when we're in our egoic struggles and we don't trust, we don't feel that we can move forward in any way whatsoever. That's being eliminated. Fear, essentially, is being eliminated. And it's a long one, but listen, it's for an entire season, so we got to deal with it. Our Osho Zen Tarot card for Aries season and our resolution for Aries season, where we're headed and what we need along that journey, encompasses everything from past through to the future. This card, trust. And what a beautiful image that is, to trust leaping into the beautiful unknown there, you know? It's the Knight of Cups, that card in this deck, which we already had here as the clarifier on that, you know, where that tower leads to, you know? Now is the moment to be a bungee jumper without the cord, and it is this quality of absolute trust with no reservation or secret safety nets that the King of Water demands from us. The Knight of Water demands of us. There is a tremendous sense of exhilaration if we can take the jump and move into the unknown, even if the idea scares us to death. And when we take trust to the level of the quantum leap, we don't make any elaborate plans or preparations. We don't say, okay, I trust that I know what to do now, and I'll settle my things and pack my suitcase and take it with me. No, we just jump with hardly a thought for what happens next. The leap is the thing, and the thrill of it as we free fall through the empty sky. The card gives a hint here, though, about what waits for us at the other end. A soft, welcoming, yummy pink, rose petals, juicy, come on. Don't you want to go there? I do. Don't waste your life for that which is going to be taken away. Trust life. If you trust, only then can you drop your knowledge. Only then can you put your mind aside. And with trust, something immense opens up. That is this, letting go of this. Right? Then this life is no longer an ordinary life. It becomes full of God, overflowing. When the heart is innocent and the walls have disappeared, you are bridged with infinity, and you are not deceived. There is nothing that can be taken away from you. That which can be taken away from you is not worth keeping, and that which cannot be taken away from you, why should one be afraid of it being taken away? It cannot be taken away. There is no possibility. You cannot lose your real treasure. Nice. I can't wait to see where this will take us. I'll be doing another video probably for the new moon. That'll be interesting because as we move towards Taurus season, we'll also be dealing with the North-South node energies in full force, giving us some real insight into what the next year and a bit will be about. So, very exciting stuff. I honestly have to tell you that having gone through January, February, and March, rest assured it was probably the most difficult energy of the year. Things will get better. things will evolve in a way that will be expansive and exciting and full of joy and celebration if you allow it. In the meantime, I wish you a delightful exploration of these energies, and I send you much love. And may you build trust in yourself. Namaste.